Yeah. Anyone else have any questions?
If I may,
Yeah.
about the theory, like theory of perception, because you use theories that point at continuity of perception, and like
Especially Bergson, yeah.
Modern research on perception seem to like be a little at odd with it. Like
well,
perception is more and more increasingly perceived as something granular, like something that often is interrupted, that lacks continuity.
I think what's interesting, I know I'm old enough when Bergson was sort of in favor, then he went out of favor, and then got back in favor again.
Sure.
Like there are all these things being written about Bergson's theories of, and he actually has some really interesting thoughts about how pure duration is internal duration is perceived, that actually are not that far at odds with sort of modern notions of granularity with respect to psycho-perception. Where essentially those gradations, those losing of conscious moments, right, dropped reality sort of thing, are all part of that notion of gesture within our ability to perceive the past contracting into the future and the present always being contracted into the past. There are moments of drop time, essentially, that happen. And I think if you read his theories, they're oddly broad enough to admit that those sorts of things are possible. So yeah, I mean I agree with you 100% that some of these older philosophers are constantly being updated with current thoughts, but they still have a lot. I look at it this way: the creative misreading of philosophy is the purview of composers.
Yeah, and like Merleau-Ponty, this phenomenology of perception was translated to Polish like 20 years ago, and it's still like fresh and a lot of to digest if you. But
nobody does. Composers don't read this stuff, and they nobody says, oh, how is the body relevant, to our ability to perceive time in music, right? I mean, Stockhausen, for God's sakes, when he was writing Carré, he was taking airplanes between Japan and thank you so much. I'll turn off the laser pointer. Do you know why it's there? It's not because it's a very expensive cat toy, but actually it sets the location of your speaker cones. You point it at the speaker cone and you lock it in, and it puts the information into your digital audio workstation. So so you can actually, from your listening position, you can set your cones. So, coming soon to a warehouse near you.
Who's producing them?
I generated a company. Yeah. Orowave Technology, the first one of its kind to come from fine arts. Yeah, we're. You guys know Marcelo Wanderley from Kermit at McGill? He's a interactive devices music person. He and I are working together on this project. So. It's been really fun. I am not a business person, like not even close. The things I have had to learn are mind-numbing, absolutely mind-numbing, but it's been fantastic. And we've had a great group. Canada and Alberta has been very supportive of it because it's new tech coming out of the fine arts area, which is like, fine arts are good for something, It's awful, but that's the reality. So we're trying to, do some good by sending this out into the world, and because part of my area is in music technology as well as composition, and I wanted to find ways to interact with the two. So this is part of it. But so it'll be available soon, I think.
Teaching about Canadian culture, are you teaching about some pianist?
About pianists? Canadian pianists?
I mean Glenn Gould.
Yeah, Glenn Gould, yeah. Yes.
Is it part of Canadian culture? Yes.
Of course, yeah. He's a huge part of Canadian.
For me, Canadian culture is Glenn Gould.
Yeah, Glenn Gould and Armory Schaefer, Claude Vivier, those are composers who people know worldwide. But Glenn Gould was a huge Canadian icon,
Raymond Murray Schaefer.
Armory Schaefer, yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
For me, Raymond Murray Schaefer is Canadian music.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. And he's a small portion of it, but also absolutely fabulous composer. So, and his later stuff too, where he was composing environmentally aware music, where he was really composing for like a lake, right? Which was absolutely fantastic. I have many colleagues who are actually working with him on actually realizing some of those pieces where you stand out in the wilderness, and you essentially create music according to the ducting properties of the temperature gradations above a lake. You know, it's really quite fantastic. So, yeah, wonderful. But yes, we do talk about Glenn Gould for sure. Still, I have a colleague who's actually been analyzing his recordings yet again. You know, because he did so many crazy things towards the end of his career. The way he, put together Mozart, and in some of the Mozart recordings, you know, things like that. Just his recording techniques. The way he was very
radio pieces,
very fastidious about how he recorded and how he edited his recordings.
At that level,
Yeah.
times
Yeah. He's a very, very interesting figure in Canadian music. So, yeah. His chair is still sitting in the Glenn Gould studio. Yeah, it's the squeaky chair.
Squeaky one,
Yeah,
yes.
the squeaky chair. Yeah, there are great stories of that particular chair showing up with him around the world, and a conductor is trying to go and move it off the stage and actually literally being shouted at. Can you imagine Leonard Bernstein was being shouted at by Glenn Gould? Don't touch my chair. So, yeah, very interesting.
And singing.
Yes, singing while he plays. Yeah, but he sang through the music.
Emotional. Your discussion about Merleau-Ponty.
Yeah.
He's
Physicalizing, embodying his music.
Embody.
Yes, yeah. And why people don't get that, I don't understand.
It's actually funny because it's easier to get to for people who are not that much into like understanding music,
Yes.
thinking about it.
Yes.
Like people who just listen get it
Yeah.
quite well.
It's true, yeah, because you feel it intuitively.
Mm.
You feel that that power of the integration with the music. Yeah.
I'm gonna say I really appreciate your explanation. I mean, listening to your piece yesterday, I had those notions of like melancholy, maybe some
Yes.
sadness, and so on. So those like poetic
Yeah.
ideas
Yeah.
came through. But what you added today was really nice.
Wonderful.
To
Yeah, wonderful. I mean,
appreciate it.
for me, emotional engagement in that particular piece is important, because I mean, some pieces are designed to keep you at a distance, to keep you emotionally, and when they do engage you, it's for a very particular purpose. This piece is the opposite. It's meant to actually take you through that journey of engagement, and I just found using the materials and deploying them the way they worked, and hearing the way Ola worked with them was really a remarkable thing. I mean, she took the piece on tour in Canada, so I got to hear, and then I got to hear her do it when she came to Lethbridge, to our school, and then now to hear it here is fantastic. So, I'm very lucky. And I think the recording is coming out soon, so that would be good. Probably in the next year or so.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. So, a couple of other pieces on the recording. So, well, thank you all so much. Is there anyone else who has questions or
Sorry
comments?
for taking all that time.
No, take time. It's great. Yeah, fantastic.
Maybe coming back a little bit to the microtonality, because I think you didn't use these words deliberately. Like, what's your take on the consonance and dissonance?
What's on consonance and dissonance?
Yes.
I love it.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Use it all the time. From a philosophical standpoint, I like what Adorno says in dissonance is truth, because it's not because he thinks dissonance actually is truth, it's because it promotes difference. And I think the ethics of consonance and dissonance is especially culturally charged now. And I think so, I'm aware of what I do in my own music and how it could be perceived. And so for me, embracing of other is really important.
Yes, because the dissonance
Yeah.
can be relative for
Yes.
different people.
Yeah.
And as
And different cultures,
Yes.
Yes.
And as I didn't hear your piece, I wasn't yesterday, but looking at the score, I think it was deliberately like, where's the line, where the dissonance begins. So this is
Yeah.
the tuning the threshold.
That's it. And
in a way.
the piece is about tuning it in that respect. It's about tuning a threshold of awareness as you progress through the piece, because there are deliberate moments where dissonance is suppressed and moments where it opens up and becomes part of the... This is what I found in writing the piece. What surprised me about it is how quickly I got used to the notion that quarter tone structures could become part of my vocabulary without even thinking, that suddenly it became a normative pitch structure, that it became a way of listening that actually fit the sound world that I had created. And that to me was relatively new, because I'd always used quarter tone structures as like quarter tone substitutions, or I'd use them as inflectional events, or I'd use them as, like building almost serial harmonies out of quarter tone structures. This is the first piece I had written where there was actually an internal awareness of how quarter tone structures actually drove the context of the notion of dissonance and consonance in the music. But what you're saying is absolutely true. I mean, someone from another culture will perceive this notion completely differently. And, I'm aware of how those notions get structured. And especially when I teach my classes, when we listen to musics from around the world and their notions of what constitute consonance and dissonance, we have to train our ears differently. And it's a wonderful thing. So teaching attitudes of attunement, which I think is the word I used, is critical, I think, to understanding all music, and allowing yourself to be open to to feeling in a variety of different contexts is very, very important. So, at least to me, anyway. Yeah. Anyone else have any?
Is the paper available somewhere?
I can make it available to anybody. Just send me your email, and I'm Arlan Schultz, arlan.schultz@uleth.ca. So uleth.ca, and I will send you the paper after I make the corrections, because I read through it twice. I'm like, damn, another typo. So, but I think I fixed them all. But yeah, absolutely, I'll send it to you.
I would like to give more thought into those philosophical.
Oh yeah, sure. And there's more to it as well, that are sort of later sections that I think are beyond the scope of our ability to deal with here. But I think would provide some additional background, the whole notion of emotional architecture and how I thought of emotional engagement as a structural element in the work.
Yeah,
was kind of important.
Read this piece, you would stop for a moment to think
yes.
about it. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, a pleasure.
Yes, I will contact you also about the Aura one, because I know a few people from Technical University of Wrocław, I think.
Fantastic.
They would be interested in that, I think.
Yeah, put us in touch, because we're right now, we can even send you guys some test copies to sort of try it out, tell us what's wrong with it and
yes,
what's
just
good.
last year they opened the immersive space, over 30 speakers finely tuned, so I think it would be very nice for them to test it out.
This is really, I used this in the MMR space, which is the 62 channel space. It's an immense sense of power to stand there and have like just one little and move sound around in this space literally as fast as you can move is really unbelievable. To just be able to gesture, you feel like Mickey Mouse in Fantasia or something, where you just, or I don't know who, yeah, exactly, just move sound around and it happens. So but things like we were finding a balance, whether it's the balance right. It actually has a squeeze sensor in it, so you can open and close filters. The switch actually turns it on and off, but it also punches in and out of channels. And it also has other ways to set up so you can use it for synthetic audio, all kinds of things. So, but spatialization was the main.
Nice.
This is 3D printed. The engineers 3D printed the device for us in Canada, and we worked with a medical device engineering company. Believe it or not, if you wanted to get something done for music well, go to medical device engineers.
Sure.
Yeah, because they have the precision that musicians need. So it was fantastic.
Yeah.
You want to answer a question?
I shake my hand to the person which is missing there. Yeah. But Ostap can take this chair.
Yeah. So, any other questions, comments? So just arlan.schultz@uleth.ca, and you send me an email, and I will send you a paper and more information. I can send you the information on the device too, if you're interested. I can send you what it does and what it looks like and all that sort of thing. And if you think it'd be useful for your lab, we want to hear about it, because it's it's an important part of the tools that we do, our technology, to make it transparent. Because if you want to incorporate space as part of a musical composition, you want to make the technical enactment of that transparent. You don't want to make it, create technology that sets up barriers to be able to do that. I'll give you a good example. Sony 360 developed this new spatialization algorithm that actually is quite good. It rivals it rivals Dolby Atmos, which is what a lot of audio algorithms are being produced in today, a lot of audio streaming materials. However, when we talk to the Sony people about how are you actually accessing the algorithms that create these amazing spatial, they're like, well, we use a mouse. And I'm like, you're using a two-dimensional instrument to access three-dimensional space. And this is the thing we're constantly coming up against, is that digital algorithms that are being used to create very advanced spatial scenographies do not have the human interfaces, have not yet caught up to be able to access those digital spaces until now. Now there's a whole generation of new devices we're hoping will be spawned from our work in gestural control. So that's where we're headed for next. So we're trying to be disruptive, I guess, also at the same time annoying, because if you go to an audio engineering conference, like I went to AES, the board manufacturers, they're like a mafia, they're really fun, they're great, amazing folks. I gotta be careful what I say because I'm on the screen. So no, they're fantastic. The board manufacturers, they know, like, they have their own territories carved out, but as soon as you say, take your hands off the board and grab something, not very well received. So what you have to do is tell them, it just sits on the board. And you just grab it when you need to move channels, and then you go back right to your board. So, the idea is workflow.
It seems very universal, I must say, because I work a little bit with motion controllers using like Leap Motion or use sensors, but for particular pieces, but mostly what comes out of it is a very particular setup for a very particular piece, and getting this universally is quite hard and time consuming.
Yes.
For many approaches, preparing that software in Max or in whatever software, it's very time consuming.
You have to design this whole architecture to be able to make it to work.
Yes.
And so we've tried to get around that now. So we're essentially creating a middleware background that allows you to plug directly into whatever your DAW you're working on. So
great.
Well, in fact, there's a lot of misunderstanding on that topic, because we think that we are talking about 3D, we are talking about gestural, even those terms are not really precise and
not well understood.
They look, but when you are really going into it and we start to declare more specific,
and immersive
especially
audio.
What does it mean? Then it's another
immersive
space.
audio for a rock and roll producer means something of quite a bit different than immersive audio for, say, a composer of new music. So.
Well, I like to when we talk about the division between musical skills and the musical background and also non-musical background, which is slightly different. So just to remind that you have 10 fingers, so when you play the piano or you play the violin, you are using either all of them or part of them, or then you are changing to gestural or more kinetic story. So, but I think it is a very nice moment to ask you, do you remember the Max Matthews' first devices, the Groove system from '69, and then the radio baton, which was the part of the conductor program, because we've been lucky in the 80s already with Richard Boulanger coming with this device. So, well, this is like a virtual, not real conductor conducting virtual orchestra. And there are three-dimensional, in fact, there are two three-dimensional antennas. Back decades.
So the device that we built, this little guy, uses essentially a military-grade IMU. It uses an inertial measurement unit that's made by Bosch. It's a chip that essentially measures, absolute position, but relative position, the way it was set up. It also cooks the data a little bit. It's got an onboard process. I would have thought that we would have problems with things like drift and issues with being able to center it, and it is unbelievable. It is like magic to have this device sitting in your hand. It's untethered except by Bluetooth, and allows you to actually create spatial gestures without having to have lanterns pointing at you, without having, like you say, radio triangulation. We were looking like all kinds of different, devices that will allow you to sort of triangulate position, right? And we tested this against at McGill University. We tested it against the motion, their high-end Vicom motion capture system, and the latency was the same, So Why spend $36,000 on a
Well,
Vicon
sometimes
system?
use the advantage of latency, which is another story, because we are just trying to go on top, and I ask my friends musician before the concert, can you play worse today? Because you are always on top, just look at the things which are behind or below, so low tech, high tech,
Be a little messy.
that's the issue, in fact,
for
going
sure.
down is also quite interesting.
Yep.
Well, that's a problem. We are high tech puppets.
True enough.
A little bit sometimes,
Well,
like,
I look at it this way. I'm interested in the technology that actually makes the creative process more transparent.
okay.
Things that allow me to do what I do easily without too much fuss, And if the device does that, great. But if I spend so much time working on the programming, I lose the sight of what I was trying to create.
Correct.
And actually, I feel that sometimes trickles down into the music. I think that sometimes, you can have pieces that are so programming heavy that they
But
lose
the result
sight
is
of the beauty of creating a sound world, And I think that finding ways to integrate with technology that make that communication process more transparent, more direct, I think is a good way to use technology. Otherwise, don't use the damn stuff. You can do amazing things sticking violins around the audience.
We are quite good in hardware hacking in general, just
I saw.
so that's the point.
But I mean, Henry Brandt published an article, the American composer, Henry Brandt, B-R-A-N-T, on what's the name of the paper? So I can tell you exactly. It's called, it's on my last page here, if I can grab it. It is called
In fact,
Space as an Essential Aspect of Musical Composition. Space is, you would probably know that paper, right?
Arlan, because I'm making, in fact, the small introduction to Benoit Maubret.
Sure. Well, he's
he's coming, so it's also it will be very nice slight transition to this pioneering on the sound art.
Absolutely.
With his interactive costumes and all those things he will show this night also.
But his work, Henry Brandt, of course, he's reifying the concepts of Henry Brandt, because Henry Brandt would say, he did all these experiments by taking musical artifacts or musical instruments and placing them all in different spatial locations. But he also did psychoacoustic measurements, where he said, what does the effect of space have on, say, a dense chord? If you have a densely packed chord at the front of the hall, what happens if you spatialize it, right? And he writes about it in this article. He says, well, it actually becomes more transparent, more open, less dissonant. Our ability to actually perceive dissonance dissipates the more you spatialize the individual components of
a little bit about the masking.
Yeah. No, it's not about masking. It's about locational perception.
Yeah, but if you have everything in mono, it's crashing, and you can take these dissonances out, and we are more transparent in a way. So masking in this context, in the spatial context.
Yeah, and the way I understand masking is to be more of interference. And this is more of literally placement.
Yes, and there is less interference when there are more spatialized.
Exactly. The partials don't interfere in the same fashion.
Yes.
Right? So this we know from acoustics, but he was writing about it using actual orchestral instruments. He had a violinist suspended from the ceiling. He put a tuba player in the floor, in the grating below the orchestra. And he said it was really strange because it sounded as though the sound of the tuba was coming from above the heads of the audience when the tuba was playing from below, because of the omnidirectional nature of bass sounds, right? But it was projected up, and it sounded like it was coming from hovering above the audience's head.
And in a way, we can call this an immersive audio.
Yeah. Yes, analog immersive audio, right?
Exactly.
But
Arlan, I'd like to ask you about the spatial trajectories, and what do you think you consider more important? It's because this technology might bring some development of the music, I think.
Yeah.
But what is the substantial? What do you think? It's much more important what is tuba playing, or whether it's in spatial organization? What's the substance of that? Because you might put,
I think that
might put some trash data in this immersive audio and have some music that is seductive, might be very interesting in a sense of stereophonics or whatever, quadraphonics.
Yeah.
But what is the because due to your today's lecture, you were very close to life. I think in the sense you try to communicate that life blurs in the lines that are not exactly written. Sometimes past, present, and future in the continuity. Sometimes like consolation, like with the grief of losing someone.
Yes.
What do you think if we put some trash data in this sphere? Would it be good music or not?
Well, it's one of the things I talk about in the later part of the paper is about spatial lyricism.
Apart from telling what is good or what is not, just like
I think what we contend with is kind of like a post-human immersive age, right? Where essentially everything is immersive now. You put on your earbuds and you listen to your latest Apple movie and it's immersive, it's spatial, right? Does it make it inherently good? Because, the industry would tell you because it's immersive, we'll pay you more. Actually, what they don't tell you is that it takes 10% to 20% more to actually produce it, so they pay you more to cover your expenses. So there's an economics of it. But in terms of the aesthetics, in my view, nothing will ever replace being a good tuba player or being a good oboe player or being a good violinist. It's why we have still people studying these instruments. No matter what we do in the realm of sampling technology and using AI to actually create note shaping, to create great playback and samples, I think music is essentially a human communication platform, right? And from my view, if the spatialization actually keeps the humanity out of that communication process, then it's every bit as trash as the music that it's projecting. So I think that, and those are my particular biases. People can argue with me whatever they want. But for me, the humanity of inclusion is part of how I view creating musical space and creating enclosure and inclusion and integration. These are all the way that the words I would use when I create musical spatial structures. So, I don't know if that answered your question, but I think if you put trash into a spatial environment, spatial trash. It's just like, it's like, hanging a urinal on the wall. Does it change its essential? It changes the context, right? Because it's in an artistic environment, but it doesn't change its functionality. So, yeah.
There's a art institute in Chicago. When I remember I had a lecture once, and there was like somebody came and said, "Oh, it's 12 o'clock. Okay, get out from here."
That's right.
Another group of people are coming. Yeah. The same space, completely another. Yeah. So Benoit is here. So that's why I'm just doing this unpleasant thing. Don't worry. I'm safe.
Well, thank you all for your kind attention to this
much.
Monstrosity. Thank you so much.
We are in contact with Arlan, so that's very important to know. Yes. You already announced that you have open channels, and
yes.
then we have also
anytime.
Open channels. So
absolutely, be in touch.
With a list of.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing from you all anytime. And if you want to know more about what we're doing in Lethbridge, we're working in immersive audio and music technology, as well as with and we're sort of part of a central group with McGill University and the University of Alberta and UBC. So we'd love to hear from what you're all doing. Thanks, folks.
Thank you
Our
much.
studio was part of Integra project, and McGill was also like a non-European partner of the project. It's quite, if you heard about Integra, if some of you, this is amazing free software.
Years ago.
Free software based on pure data.
Oh yeah.
Like
that's Miller's.
Is it still developed?
Yeah, it's quite the new version. It's really some. No, it's like another shortcut.
I know.
Thinking about McGill. And
is Miller Puckett? Is he involved? Is Miller working with?
No, there was another person who was coming. Short first name, short last name. So I should remember. But I lost it because it was quite long. Lamberto Cioccioli from Birmingham University Conservatoire. Birmingham Conservatoire, not conservatory, but even that it's in the UK, it's called like this. There are two big universities in Birmingham, so that was the second one. Was the main runner of the provider of the Integra.
Cool.
I should stop it because it's like oh my god. There were a lot of beautiful stories like migration of old project made in IRCAM, for example, and then not available because of the change of the system, because of the money, of course, IRCAM were usually copyrights, and then we are trying to extract those even fedele, software and to transit to the new formats. And there was a beginning, but then we pointed out that we need to build our own system because then it will be much more easier not to join with other things. Thanks a lot. And
thank you, folks.
yes, please, let's make a short break to put more air inside, I think, and don't go away. Benoit is already on the corridor, waiting. All of them are really famous, so.
The difference where you put them, because like this
That's
famous,
for sure.
famous piece.
Can I take a picture of that?
Of course, yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
To jest Arlan tak samo. Ja w zasadzie, która forma jest najlepsza. Można teraz spróbować to zrobić.
Yeah. So